there wasn't any damage done as far as I understand. So,
Weren't they just painting the bottom, Rick?
we won't go there. But without dragging this out too much longer, we want to make the Up the Creek Without a Paddle Award this year for running aground in Eagle Harbor, and that goes to Twin Isles and Andy Hathaway. Oh, okay, yes, we have an acceptance here.
Hi, I'm Peter from Deer Falcon, and the Hathaways are our neighbors at Ewing Street Moorings. And unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight. Andy is hiking in New Mexico, and Joellen told me she had to wash her hair, so they asked me to accept on their behalf. Now, as we all know, the Up the Creek Without a Paddle Award is the most coveted and prestigious award that our organization gives, especially if it's not you who's getting it. So we, because the Hathaways aren't here tonight, Nancy is videoing this thing for us, and that's for several reasons. One, because that way we can show the Hathaways tomorrow, when we see them, that we can still be friends. I promised them I would be gentle. And the second reason is that as soon as she gets it done, I'm going to put it on YouTube, and tally ho, just eat your heart out. Anyway, these things happen, these disasters happen, and they're usually a series of small events. And any one of these events by themselves would be livable. You could get along. But when they're consecutive like this, they can go together and make a major mess. And that's what happened here. I was not there at the time, but I've been told this story a number of times, so I'm sure I'll get some of it wrong. But anyway, here we go. So the first thing that happened was that Andy retired last year, and he spent the last year or so getting the boat ready because he really likes to cruise. And so he finally got it together, and he was going for his first long cruise. It was going to go out for 2 weeks, and their first stop was over to Eagle Harbor. And they were on their way in and getting ready to dock. And now there's a couple of key learnings here, and so I'll point them out as I go through this. Anyway, so Andy realized that before they got into the harbor, well, he really needed to pee. So he handed the helm to his engineer, and he said, "Here, take this for a minute. I've got to go downstairs, and I'll be right back." So the engineer took the helm, and everything was cool, except that at that point, there was a little regatta of kids in sailboats, and they were coming right at the Twin Isles, and the engineer sort of freaked a little bit, and he pulled hard astern, not remembering that the channel was quite narrow, and right off the edge of the channel, it got real shallow real quick. So that's what happened here. The boat went aground. That's step one. So key learning one is always obey your prostate. Those of you who are elderly gentlemen like myself, you understand how that works, all right? So then the second thing was that when the boat went over on the side like that, well, they had an old through hull that had been retired in place, and it had been there for years. It was well above the water line, so they never got around to plugging it. You can imagine, or yeah, I bet you can guess which side that through hole was on. Okay, so then the boat floats, all right? And so then that is the second thing that went bad. And so the key learning there is there's no such thing as an out-of-date through hole, all right? Anyway, the boat floods, one of the engine gets salt water in it, the batteries get salt water, the inverter's gone, and this is on the first day of their cruise. So they managed to limp back over to here, and I think Doran Ellis was over there at the time, and he helped them with the dinghy to get them back through the locks. They had one engine in Doran, and so they got back to here, and so it worked out pretty well. So now they got back, and we're all living on the same dock, And so we live on a place called Ewing Street Moorings, which is one of the last old funky docks here in Seattle. And for those of you who don't know Ewing Street, it is known as the Center for Rotten Boats. Anyhow, so we go back to that engineer. You remember the engineer that we had, who was at the helm at the time? Fortunately, he actually is an engineer. He works full-time as a diesel mechanic. So he was there to help Andy with the engine afterwards, and they had to flush it out 3 or 4 times before they got the salt out of the motor oil. And they're working on the battery still. So there was a little harm done, but no serious fouls. All right. So that sort of brings us to the last key learning here, which is it takes a village. And especially in old wooden boats like this, it really takes a village to put us all together. Now on Ewing Street, not only do we have all of us and our mechanic, but we also have a resident painter. And so at some point in the last couple of weeks, he was commissioned to come up with a painting it's the same photograph, or close to photograph, but anyway, this is Jeff Whitman, who's our resident painter. He now lives in California, but he does boat paint. He's done a nice job. And so I pulled this out of the Hathaway Salon this morning. So it's now, I guess it's their prize. And the thing about this award is, I think that we're on there somewhere. I think everybody's won it. But the good news is it's been a few years ago, and I don't even remember what we won for anymore. So the embarrassment goes away after a while. So anyway, on behalf of the Hathaways, I would like to thank you so much for giving them this prestigious and coveted award, the Up the Paddle Without a Creek award. Thank you.